there are a lot of different ways. Like you may not think, oh, cannabis is directly helping me lose weight. Like it's not going to be like a weight loss supplement in that way. But I think in a lot of ways it can help you lose weight because it gets your mindset right. It makes you feel like you're more in the mood to work out.
Welcome to the Well with Cannabis podcast, a show dedicated to telling the life-changing stories of those who live well with cannabis, all while teaching you how to do the same. Meet your host, Emily Kyle, a registered dietitian nutritionist turned certified holistic cannabis practitioner. Emily changed her life for the better with the help of the cannabis plant, and now she is committed to helping others do the same. Tune in each week to hear heartwarming stories and gain the knowledge you need to feel connected, inspired, and supported on your own cannabis journey. Whether you're a new cannabis consumer or a lifetime lover, you'll benefit from these uplifting tales of real-life journeys that will show you how you too can live your best life well with cannabis.
Before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to share a note on potentially sensitive content. The episodes on the Well with Cannabis podcast are created for adult audiences only. We will at times cover sensitive topics including, but not limited to, suicide, abuse, mental illness, sex, drugs, alcohol, psychedelics, and the obvious use of plant medicine. Explicit language may be used occasionally. Please refrain from watching or listening to the show if you're likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. The information on this show is for informational and educational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice. If any of the content on this podcast has brought up anything for you, please reach out or speak to a professional or someone you trust.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Well with Cannabis podcast. And I am super excited to be here today with Miss Laura Connelly from Elevated Wellness Coaching. And we are going to talk about all things cannabis, reefer madness, the stigma, coming out of the green closet, and now what she is doing in cannabis work moving forward. So welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. When I read a little bit, it says you said cannabis and I go way back, and I felt that. You said 15 years. Let's talk a little bit about it, because you said, as you know, most you and your cannabis relationship has its fair share of ups and downs. And I'd love to talk about how that started and kind of brought you to where you are today.
Absolutely. So I kind of fell into cannabis just for fun initially, just kind of like many people do. I went to college and it was provided for me, and it was just kind of an exciting new thing to try. And, it was something that I just enjoyed over alcohol. Mostly it was just kind of more enjoyable for me. So I was kind of just occasionally smoking. But then initially it was an assault that happened to me in my freshman year of college that kind of brought me into the wellness aspects of it. And so I like to say that kind of came around accidentally as well. So I just kind of continued to smoke for fun after this incident occurred. But really, I started noticing how it helped me feel a little bit more comfortable in these social situations. And I was feeling less anxious. And it was really an amazing kind of thing to see. But at that point, this was like 15 years ago. It wasn't really known to me, at least in my community and among my friends, that this was a normal thing as a wellness tool. So, I just kind of continued smoking for fun, but realizing that this was providing me with so much more than that. And then I honestly just kind of eventually continued kind of that route with just kind of smoking for fun and became a mental health therapist. And I started to then make the connections even more so through a lot of my clients who were coming in, telling me like, I'm struggling with anxiety, I'm struggling with this or that. And, the medication is nice, but the cannabis is really helping. Like, that's what's actually like, I don't want to stop smoking. This is actually really helping me. And I was like, oh my gosh, so it's not just me. Like, this is actually.
Oh, wow. That's so cool that you got to see that from the other side.
Absolutely. Like, I think that's when it really started to dawn on me. Like, this is not just, a drug. I went through the DARE program. I was in that class of people. So this was not something that I had been, shunned from for so long. This is something that could be really helpful for so many people for so many different reasons. And it was really amazing to see through that mental health journey, becoming a therapist, how many people and how many different diagnoses could be helped with cannabis. It was really incredible.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Now, are you able to talk a little bit about your work? Did you ever feel shame or the stigma, that normal stuff that we typically have as healthcare professionals working in a normal job?
Absolutely. I would never want to admit, like I could always, kind of say, oh, I understand where you're coming from, those types of things. But I never wanted to be one to admit, be like, I understand. I smoke too, and I get benefits too. And, I see that happening. So I was always afraid to admit that. Yeah. And on the other side of it, I'm also a mom, and I have the stigmas too of just being, in the community as a mother and somebody who has a family and trying to take care of things, facing those stigmas. So it was, hard all around, I think, for me to admit that all the time.
Absolutely. I felt the same way too. And then I connected with you because you were like, you came out of the closet and you called it the green closet, which I loved. And I had a similar experience where I was like, I just have to get this out into the world. Like I can't live pretending anymore. Did you have a similar experience, or was it kind of like a slow nudge out of the closet?
So it's funny, if you knew me really well at this point, obviously it was pretty obvious that I had, been enjoying cannabis for some time. But I think it really was a big burst out of the closet once the pandemic hit. So I think if anybody was not aware at that point, then that's when they found out. But for me, it was, it was watching people struggle, watching my clients as a mental health therapist struggle so much, and then be told that maybe they couldn't get the medication that they wanted because they were smoking weed, and, being forced to stop something that was helping just to have something that we could charge them for. And, it started making my job feel a little bit less helpful, like less like what I got into it for. And that was really frustrating. So at that point, I was like, you know what? This isn't something I feel like it's worth hiding. It's not benefiting me. It's not going to benefit anybody else who is going through this and feeling like they have to hide it. So at that point, I kind of shouted to the world between blogging and starting a YouTube channel, all that good stuff. And I actually ended up leaving mental health therapy and becoming a cannabis health coach. And I think that is an incredible intersection of things, which has been really fun. But it brings that awareness to where I can be like, yes, I use this too, and it is okay. And it's great that you're getting those benefits. It's not weird that you're getting those benefits. Yes. Like it is a wellness tool that can be used. So I think that's really what pushed me right out of that green closet.
It's so beautiful and so important for your work. I mean, as a mental health therapist, to be able to be somebody who is like, I use cannabis, I understand cannabis, you're not weird, I know why you feel better. Like people have to love you. They have to meet you and be like, oh my gosh, thank God I finally found someone who understands me. It's got to be an amazing feeling.
It is. And what brings me to it so much is that being able to make other people feel like you're not crazy, that we're crazy. Like everybody has mental health struggles. There's just because you can put a diagnosis on yours doesn't mean you're any worse or better than anybody else, and if the things can help, then that's great. And I think that cannabis can be one of the biggest wellness tools in the toolbox. So,
I'm shouting it right there with you. Tool in the toolbox. It's not the only tool. It's not necessarily the best tool, but it really, when used with all the tools, I mean, you're handyman. You've got it. Now, if I could ask you a little bit from your experience working in the mental health field, what type of mental health conditions do you see most frequently being benefited with the use of cannabis?
I think anxiety jumps to mind first. And that's really what I struggle with the most personally. And I think that it helps me with the most is just quieting the mind. And that could range from anything like during the day, just trying to be able to focus on things, or even at night if you just can't sleep and, insomnia might be a struggle. I think those are major things I see cannabis helping with. And even depression, I think that can be a little bit different of a game. I think the CBD can maybe be a stronger help there. But everybody is so different that it is kind of a fun little puzzle, I guess, to work on.
Absolutely.
And so I think, anxiety and depression are big. And, it's surprising. I think people deal with, grief with cannabis as well, or even parenting struggles or anger issues, those types of things. It can be kind of surprising how it can just kind of calm in many ways, calm the body, calm the mind. And no matter what mental health struggles are going on, I think it really is a help in that way.
Absolutely. I feel like cannabis is the missing piece in the mental health struggle that we're currently facing in our healthcare system today. If we could talk about it, we could educate people about it, if we could give them an option to try something. And I don't know if I could ask you this as well. Do you see a big difference on people on pharmaceutical medications that are using them to control anxiety, depression, et cetera, versus cannabis? Is there different side effects that would make one favorable over the other?
Absolutely. I think, in my opinion, at least from what I can see, the side effects from cannabis are going to be things like, getting kind of hungry or falling asleep, where it's like not the worst side effects you could have, as long as you're just careful, maybe not, overdoing it and taking a drive or things like that. But when it comes to pharmaceutical medications, the list of side effects can go on, and it's frightening sometimes. And I know sometimes when I'm talking to people about dialing in their cannabis use, it's interesting because sometimes it's like, well, I don't want to put in the effort into finding, the terpene that works for me, or the strain that works for me. It's like, okay, I understand that. But in mental health, like it's always kind of a game like that, where you're trying different medications and you're trying to find what works. And then you're dealing on top of that with the side effects. And if it doesn't work, then you're, kind of making things worse. And, it's awful when you hear like the side effects are like suicidal thoughts or things that these people are already struggling with. Yeah. And it just makes this worse. And it's like, oh my gosh, like that's, that can't be helpful if it could either go well or it could go terribly wrong. So I think it's nice to have cannabis where it's like, well, it can go well or it can go like not great, but you're not going to be
not
worse
terrible.
off.
Absolutely. Right. And it would and I'm sure that you agree with me on this. If anybody is listening, I'm a huge, supporter of anything that works. So pharmaceutical medications are working for you and making you feel well. You do you. I just want people to feel well in all aspects, whether it's with pharmaceutical, cannabis, or a combination of both. So making sure everybody feels confident in what they're doing. But if you are somebody who is living with anxiety, depression, and are interested in trying cannabis, I want to talk a little bit about using cannabis specifically for anxiety, because we have this really, really slippery slope where too much THC can make anxiety so much worse. And I get so many people coming to me and they're like, I have anxiety, but every time I use cannabis, I freak out and have a terrible experience. And I'm like, yeah, like you're using way too much. People really are in this mindset of like, almost like those college days of like, I'll try whatever, like, and I don't care how much is in it. But if you're managing anxiety, you really need to be careful with how much THC you're consuming. Can we talk a little bit about that and how you would guide somebody in the first shot with cannabis and anxiety?
For sure. Yeah. So I think the quintessential kind of phrase is to start low and go slow. Yes. So I think that is absolutely key, especially when you're dealing with things like this, because you're right. THC can trigger like paranoia or really strong anxiety, and it just feels so uncomfortable. Yes. And, it can actually cause an elevated heart rate in general, like THC can, and that can alone trigger feelings of anxiety. So if you're physiologically feeling that way, it's, it comes out too. So it's definitely worth being careful, starting low, going slow. Starting with a higher CBD strain or an only CBD strain, and kind of working off of that and realizing that, THC is fantastic. It's a lot of fun and it's great cannabinoid, but it's only one cannabinoid and so many. Yes. So there's so many other benefits you can get from cannabis without going high on the THC. And, it's hard to break through the marketing on that too. I think that a lot of people, think, oh, THC is the thing, that's all you want. So and they market such high THC. Right?
I love THC, but there's a limit, like you said, pairing other cannabinoids is something that people really, really miss. And adding CBD, a lot of people say, oh, I tried just CBD and it didn't work for me. Totally understandable. But if you can mix the right amount of CBD with the right amount of THC, they work together and it can be the most magical experience once you find what works for you. But like you said, you have to be patient too. And it kind of is like trialing other medications. It doesn't just happen at once. It's not like a first time. And maybe some people are, and I hope, everybody first time feels amazing. But in most cases, it takes a long time, trial and error of trialing different products, application methods, strains to find what works for you. Do you recommend people be patient and really kind of allow themselves to flourish on this journey rather than just trying it once and leaving?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think trying it once and leaving, that does happen so many times. You hear those stories where it was like, no, it's just not for me. And, I feel bad for those people because I can understand being hesitant and then being afraid to come back to it. But absolutely, I think every experience can be different, even as a seasoned smoker or as a seasoned consumer. It's still different every time you get something new. So I think it's very important to pay attention, kind of go along for the ride, consume low amounts if you're into, if it's the first time you're consuming especially, or if it's the first time you're consuming something new. And being able then to even track it in any kind of way that's going to work for you no matter how simply it is, if it's easier just to plug it in on like the notes app on your phone, then that's great. If you want to write it down in a journal or actually get like one of the dedicated like gold leaf cannabis journals, things like those, it's just nice to kind of, even just in the beginning, just to keep track of what's going to work, what strain, what terpenes, what you're getting, what's working for you. And then once you kind of have it dialed in, and then and you can always go back to journaling. You don't have to do it forever, but it's nice to do, I think, in the beginning, just to kind of keep track of those things. Cause it's a lot. This is a lot of stuff.
Journaling is like the unsung hero of cannabis healthcare, because for so many of us, if you're in chronic pain or if you're experiencing anxiety in the moment, you're not going to remember what you took and when you took it. You just have to write it down. And then you're not necessarily going to be like 20 minutes later, be like, how do I feel? Like, but the more data you can collect to look back on, you can see trends, you can see what's working. Oh, this is not working. It really just gives you insight. And like, in the moment, it's just so hard to, gather all the thoughts. If you could just jot it down, like you said, even in the notes app in your phone. I actually love the gold leaf journals. They're very beautiful. If anybody's listening, I'll leave a link so you can look at them. They're specifically for tracking your cannabis consumption. And it's like nice to have, I'm like a paper and pen kind of girl anyway. I love having that to write in. So if anybody's interested, it's just really helpful to know where you've been so you can know where you want to go.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. It's crucial, I think, so that you can have a roadmap for yourself, because everybody is different. Everyone's going to react different. So it's nice to learn yourself that way.
Absolutely. That's the one thing with cannabis. And I say this over and over. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but if you've never heard me before, your experience with cannabis is 100% unique to yourself. It will never be the same as somebody else's. You have your own unique endocannabinoid system, your own personal physiology. So people want to say, if my friend did this, I could do this. No, it's 100% so unique. Like, as unique as your immune system. Like, people, how people jump on those fad diets, and like, I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be just something so personalized to each person, because again, we're just all so different, and our needs are all so different, especially in this crazy life. Yeah,
100%.
Now, I wanted to transition. Let's transition out of mental health care, although I feel like they actually go perfect together and into motherhood, because we all need a little bit of mental health support in our parenting journeys. Can we talk a little bit about cannabis and motherhood and what that looks like for you?
Absolutely. So I have been, using, my son is 8, so I've been using cannabis throughout my entire...
8-year-old boy too.
Really?
Yeah, so cute.
They should be friends.
I know.
No, they are. And they certainly keep you busy. That's for sure. That's
8 is like going on 18. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh. It is. It's a whole new world out there. But that's, I think that's what keeps me going most of the time is the cannabis. And I have been using it for my son's whole life, really. And it's been for many different reasons, between, taking care of my own mental health, being able to take a break and take care of my anxiety so that I'm not snapping at him for no reason. That's a big thing. And just being able to enjoy those moments. I think it gets me out of my head so that I'm not worried about maybe all of those shoulds that I have as a mom. Like, I should be doing the dishes and I should be doing the laundry, but he wants me to play this game. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to play the game. And that's, going to be more fun and better for both of us in the long run. So I think it's a tool for me to be able to pull myself out of my head and out of those moments where I'm like, you know what? The house can wait. Everything else can wait. His time is more important. So we're going to do whatever he wants to do. So I think that is where that comes in for my parenting.
It is so beautiful and so special. And I'm so glad that you shared that with us, because for, so many of us were so scared to admit that we use cannabis as parents, even though it could be potentially one of the greatest, most helpful tools that actually most positively impacts our children in the long run. And I find so many moms like me, like you, who are responsibly using cannabis, who are really creating these really special relationships with their children that are more present, that are more meaningful, that are more kind and more caring. And none of us should feel bad for that. I like how you said, I don't snap as much. So many moms, we just snap out of frustration. We feel bad. We go through this cycle of guilt. Like, if you could eliminate just a little bit of that and feel so much better. And then we put so much pressure on ourselves to be present, to be in the moment, to enjoy every second. And I really was never able to do that unless I was consuming cannabis. I was always worried about something else. And with cannabis, it's just such a beautiful thing to have these really special relationships with our children and prove the stigma is actually very, very wrong.
Right. Absolutely. No, it really is. I think it makes parenting, I wouldn't say easier, but it just makes it
more enjoyable,
more fun. Like, you're just able to kind of get into it a little bit more and get in touch with maybe your inner child so that you can kind of relate on a different level. It's more fun and relaxed. And I think takes off those societal pressures that are running through your mind.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, like, I sleep better knowing that I'm being the best parent I can be. And I don't really care what anyone else says, because they're not in the walls of my home. They're not in those special moments with my children. And at the end of the day, the only people's opinions that matter are actually my children's. And I really think that they and my husband should be pretty glad that I use cannabis, because it's a much happier, calm household. Now, my son obviously knows all things cannabis just because of my job and what I do. And it's a little bit different at my house. How does that look at your house?
I am very open about it. I want to be open and honest, because I remember one time he was a little bit younger and somebody had brought up mentioned somebody smoking a cigarette somewhere. And he goes, "Oh, my mommy smokes." And for a second, I was like, "Oh, but no." And I was like, "But not that." And so it took me a second to realize, like, oh, I really should explain the difference here and like what's happening. And, I realize that he's picking up on what I'm doing sometimes, that he can see me and that, but I really want to get into like, oh, this is something I'm doing to benefit my health. It's not other choices that other people make. That's fine for them, but this is what I'm doing. And this is why. And I think it's really important to have those conversations, because they do pick up on so many things. And especially with social media now, I mean, you can hand my kid a phone and he could probably do anything on an app 10 times better than I can.
He can YouTube it up. These kids, it's ridiculous.
It's crazy. So I wanted to give him the best information that I could before he went out there and got all somewhere else. So
I have to ask you this as a mom of a child with a similar age. Does your school still do the DARE program?
I have not seen it.
Mine's coming up. I think they do it in 5th grade. And I am like constantly being like, I don't know, like, how do I feel about it? Because we talk about all drugs. We talk about cannabis. We talk about other drugs. And I think he's pretty well-rounded. But then he's going to go to the DARE program and they're going to tell him something different than what I've told him. And I'm like, oh gosh, like, how do we navigate that moving forward as parents who are just a little bit more open with our children? So we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there.
I know we will have to talk, but it is interesting because I think it's a fine line to walk, being like, we're not lying and they're not necessarily lying. But there's misinformation, because people are not always completely informed on everything. And so it's, it's
there are different intentions too. I mean, we talk about alcohol and they see us consume alcohol in social situations, but we don't over consume alcohol. So maybe I'll frame it like that. I don't know. I'm like, dear. I suppose it's a good thing, but I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's funny. Like, we live in a very, very small town. Like, all the teachers, everybody knows who I am and what I do. So we'll see how it goes, dear.
Yeah.
Let's
be interesting. I know.
Yeah. We'll transition out of motherhood. Let's transition into cannabis coaching. And let's talk a little bit about what it looks like to work with a cannabis coach for any of our listeners who might need a little hand holding, who've never worked with a cannabis coach, so are unclear about what it looks like.
Absolutely. So for the major coaching program, it's an 8-week program that I would take you through. And it's really a personalized one-on-one program. So it's really geared towards you and what it is that your goals are. And then we kind of infuse that with cannabis. So it's anything from like your fitness goals and health goals, your mental health goals. It could be things like even just setting schedules and having better relationships and just kind of working through life's normal struggles and then being able to weave cannabis into those and see how it can help. So if you are maybe struggling with being able to, eat healthy and sleep well at night, we can work on the ways that cannabis can then help be a supplement in your diet and even be, something that you can use that before bedtime, and how to make edibles if you're not really someone who likes to smoke, or what vaping is. So even just if it comes down to just learning even how to consume cannabis, the best ways to do it for yourself if you're not someone who wants to smoke, versus how to use a vape, or if you've never done that before. The whole world of cannabis can be very overwhelming, I think, if you're coming into it brand new, especially now between the different, the concentrates and the different tools that you can get. There's a lot. So it's really a whole comprehensive program that you can walk through. So it's great for both setting goals in your life and learning about how cannabis is not only affecting those things, but then can moving forward affect it differently, and how you can change and create goals with cannabis.
Oh, I feel like so many people need that hand holding too. But I wanted to talk quickly. You just sparked something about how cannabis can help our physical health and our mental health, and kind of like pull it all together, because a lot of people, assume you're lazy, you're going to eat chips and lay on the couch and you're not going to exercise. But the more people I talk to, and I always thought this was just me, but like when I use cannabis, I love exercising, which I typically don't. I find that I care for myself better. I generally eat healthier. I take better care of myself. And how you just said that you work with your clients and incorporate cannabis like that. Can you talk a little bit more about what you've seen in physical wellness when using cannabis, how it can actually help?
Absolutely. I think the first thing that comes to mind really is kind of managing pain. That if you are somebody who maybe I don't want to get up and exercise or even just take a walk because it hurts my joints or it hurts this and that. And the cannabis being able to manage just how you feel in your body can be such a huge thing. And then that goes for after a workout too. If you're, recovering, it can help just feel a little bit better. And then you kind of stay in it in the recovery process and all of that. So I think there are a lot of different ways. Like you may not think, oh, cannabis is directly helping me lose weight. Like it's not going to be like a weight loss supplement in that way. But I think in a lot of ways it can help you lose weight because it gets your mindset right. It makes you feel like you're more in the mood to work out. Like one of my favorite things used to be to consume and then go to Zumba class because you just get to dance around. And it's so fun.
It's so much fun.
So, yeah.
And I feel like I get more into my exercise and like it feels good. Like the combination of like cannabis high and like runner's high for me is so like I love exercise. I've never had such a good relationship with fitness in my life until I incorporated cannabis into it. And so I always like to repeat that for people because so many people are concerned that if they consume cannabis, they will not care about their diet or be less active. And I just find that to be literally completely opposite in so many cases.
Yeah, it usually really is. And I think it comes down to how you're consuming and what you're consuming too. And, not overdoing it on certain things so that you're not getting the munchies all the time or not feeling so tired all the time. So it really is. It can be a learning process. And that's also where a cannabis health coach can come in.
I was just going to say that can help you with a cannabis health coach has that education. If you are getting the munchies that can say, well, let's try something different. Or if you are finding that you're less active, let's try something different, because when it comes to cannabis, you can tweak just about everything to get what you want.
Right.
And that's why your work is so important, is because you can help hold people's hands through the journey and help them get there quicker and feel better faster, which is super exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the goal.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom. And before I let you go, can I ask you the same 4 questions I ask all my guests?
Absolutely.
All right. The first one is, what are you most proud of in your life to date?
So other than my son, who is my pride and joy, I would say that I am most proud that I, at this point, continue to show up, because it has been not always an easy journey. And I think as as a
whole
woman,
other conversation on that. Cannabis business.
Right. It's a lot. And just being, Steven's just showing up on social media and having to, to deal with all of those things. So I'm very proud that I continue to show up, and that no matter how many times somebody says, no, you can't speak on this, or no, we don't want to hear about this, they say, well, I think it's still important and I want to keep showing up. And even if that means starting over fresh on certain things, then that's what it means. But just not giving up and continuing to show up is my proudest moment, I think, at this point.
Oh, I feel that in the cannabis industry. I feel like it's always 1 step forward, 2 steps back. So I feel you on that one, and super proud of you for keep going, because it can be really, really hard. And just even being a woman starting a business, like let alone whether it is cannabis or not, it can really be hard. Right. So super proud of you on that. What do you think your life, and this is everybody's least favorite question, what do you think your life would look like without cannabis?
And, it's interesting. The first thing that comes to mind when thinking this is just dark. Like, I feel like it would just be not as much brightness and joy as I have now. I think I would have gone through some dark times in college, and maybe have led to some, other choices in life. I'm glad that this is the substance that I came upon. I think it could have gone differently. And I think I wouldn't be as good of a mother. And I think my entire career would be different. I think it was really, it shaped my whole life in many positive ways at this point. But I think just kind of dark and dim is really what comes to mind.
Yeah, I totally believe that. Someone had said, as like they were trying to explain cannabis to someone and they're like, it's like living in a world of black and white, and with cannabis, you see color. And I was like, oh, that's a perfect way to say that. So that really reminded me.
No, I definitely get that. Yeah.
Now, I know you've been a lifelong cannabis consumer, but if you could go back 10, 20, 30 years, give yourself a little piece of advice, what would it be?
I think it would be to be patient, to keep going and keep trying and be patient. And also just not to compare myself to others, to not always listen to what other people say, and to not always believe what I think, because your mind is always going to play those tricks on you when you're playing the comparison game. But just to be on my own path and to trust my own path and my own intuition and things.
Last one. If you could be remembered for just one thing in the cannabis space, what would it be?
I hope it is, I would say, just to break through stigmas and to make people feel good about consuming, to feel good about what they're doing with their lives, and to not feel like they're being judged. And that way to leave that feeling with other people, I think is the biggest thing.
Oh, and I have no doubt you do that in your work now. Please tell us more about where people can, if they want to work with you or just learn more from you, where can they find you?
Absolutely. So my website is elevatedwellnesscoach.com. So you can sign up and for a free call on that website, and we can just do a little chat and be able to kind of get to know each other, see if we would work together well, see what the issues are. And I also do run a shorter program outside of the 8-week program too, if you were interested in something like that. And then you can also find me on Instagram at I am now Pothead Plant Mind. So that is where I am on Instagram, and as well on YouTube and WeedTube as well.
So fun. I will put all of these links so everybody can find you, book that free call, get that cannabis coaching you need so you can start feeling better sooner. Thank you so much for joining us today. This was a wonderful conversation.
It really was. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Congratulations. You've finished another episode of the Well with Cannabis podcast and are one step closer to discovering how you too can live well with cannabis. Thank you for listening in today. We hope this episode has been a helpful and informative one. Please visit emilykylenutrition.com for more information on today's show notes, guest information, recipes, and other resources. If you want more support and encouragement on your cannabis journey, please consider joining the private Well with Cannabis community. In this group, you can connect with like-minded individuals focused on improving their health and wellness through cannabis. Join the group today to continue your journey of wellness together at emilykylenutrition.com.